Welcome to Art Talk with April. I'm April Harris of Inked April and the host of this podcast. This is season 4. We have some amazing artists on. I can't wait to share them with you. So let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to Art Talk with April. This is season 4. Today we have Misty Granade, who is a mixed media artist. Oh, I got it out. Okay. How are you, Misty?
I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. And so Misty and I, we know each other from the Alabama Women's Caucus of Art and online. So I don't know a whole lot about like your story or journey, but I see your art all the time, which is absolutely beautiful. I just love the things you post, and you're so regular about blogging too, which is awesome. And I just wanted to kind of start back in the beginning of things and see, like, how did you get started? What brought you to being creative?
Well, I say in my bio that I've been gluing things together since I got my first bottle of Elmer's glue. And that's pretty accurate. That like it was immediate love of paper and gluing things together. So it's just something I've always done. When I went to college, it was one of those things that I felt like I needed to do something to make money. And so I ended up getting a commercial art degree from the college that I went to, which is really a graphic design degree.
Yeah.
And so I worked at an advertising agency for a while. And it was always very frustrating to me because I explain it as being art adjacent. Graphic design is its own field, but it is often art by committee, and where you have a lot of input from a lot of outside sources. You know, there's the client, of course, but then there's also the person from your agency who's interfacing with the client. They always have ideas, too many ideas often, that aren't based in any kind of reality.
Yeah.
And, like I just got really burned out from doing that sort of, yes, I was the designer, but really I was the dictaphone, right? Like I was just taking dictation and doing what somebody else wanted me to do. And so when we moved to Huntsville, I took some time off to have babies, and I was very lucky that I got to do that. And as they were very small and I had a little bit of spare time, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to play. Like, I'm just going to, I'm going to have a little extra space in my house. I'm going to dedicate it to and let it be my studio space. And I don't have any priorities except for just enjoying making. And so that's what I started doing in this space right here, actually. I called it my Make Art Every Day project.
Yeah.
And that was in 2013. And the rules were I had to spend 20 minutes a day making. It didn't have to be anything. It didn't have to be finished. It didn't have to be good, right? Like it didn't have to be a good thing. I just had to make for 20 minutes. And then my accountability was that I pushed a picture to the internet. So at that time, it was Twitter. That was the platform that I had access to. So I was putting a picture every day on Twitter. So I did that for many years. And, the 20 minutes got longer and longer and longer every day, like over the years, the 20 minutes. Yeah. And then I was working on a piece that I really liked. And a really good friend of mine said, "Hey, I want that to go in my office at work." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what? You want what?" And she said, "Yeah, I want to, can I buy that and put it in my office?" And I was like, "Wait, you want to pay me money?" And she said, "Yes, I want to pay you money." So that really was the start of me being a working artist. I mean, I was clearly an artist before then, but yeah, like I got paid for my artwork. And so I tease her about that all the time because she now has her own studio and she has that piece of art hanging in her studio. So,
oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, it's really, it's a nice little synergy kind of a
thing. Yeah.
So I've been doing this. This is my 10th year from 2013 to now. It's 2023. So I've been doing this about 10 years and, had a lot of ups and downs. The art world has been, making art and having an art practice during the pandemic has been a thing. So yeah, it's had its good moments and its rough moments, but I'm excited to still be allowed to have this practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, you said a lot in that story. So like I'm a graphic designer. That's what I do in the daytime during the week. And I totally get what you were talking about. I feel like that a lot sometimes where it's just like, okay, I'm the puppet on the string.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll make it pink or I'll make it blue or whatever.
Yeah, there's like a meme, make the logo bigger. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. My partner and I, we laugh about that all the time because that was always the thing, right? The client always wants the logo to be just ginormous. And it's like, listen, if you make it small and put white space around it, people gravitate to it. And nobody ever understands that. And that's like a known design principle, right?
You're
like
told,
white
you're
space.
told that everywhere, all the time,
Yeah,
everything.
But everybody's like, no, I need it to be big. And it's like,
Oh, yes, so true. There are so many little, I guess, like cliches or, memes and things out there about the different things that other people make you do as a graphic designer. And you're taught in college to be creative and to know all these things. And then you get on a team and they're like, no, do it my way, and you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that was so frustrating to me is that, I have an art education, right? Like I literally went to school to learn these principles and to be able to execute them well. And then the person that hires you goes, okay, yeah, we hired you for that, but no, we really want you to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I've
oh man.
I will do a graphic design project. I have a friend who's a musician and I do her album covers. We have like just a really good working relationship. So she trusts me to do things. And sometimes I'm like, hey, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else, but let's just try it.
Yeah.
And we always come up with something really good. So there are a few people that I will still do graphic design for, but I'm like super choosy about.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But in that same vein, I've had similar experiences with commissions. So do you take commissions at all, or is it more like?
I do. I have taken commissions and I will take them. I try to do a pretty serious interview process when I'm doing a commission. And like, I do abstract work. Period.
Yeah.
The end. I am not going to draw you a picture of a vase of flowers. That is not who I am. There are lots of people in the world who do that very, very well. And I will refer you to them as much as you need me to, but don't come to me expecting something representational when I am an abstract artist. So I typically have that conversation and I say, here's a whole breadth of my work. This is what I do. And I have tons of stuff up on my website. My entire portfolio practically is on my website. Like, if you like this, then you're probably going to like what you commission me to do. But if you want, a barn or, a field of turkeys, like I'm not your girl. So we do that. And then depending on what their requirements are, I try to offer them choices, throughout the process. And, we talk about color palettes, like, what are you interested in? And sometimes I've had clients that just go, I want you to do something. You know me, take what you know of me and make me something.
Wow.
And that's usually where I have the best luck, because that's the my creativity sort of free form off of who I know this person to be.
Yeah.
But I did take one commission and I stepped the lady through the process the whole way. I offered her, I do a lot of collage. So I put a whole paper set of paper swatches together. And I said, okay, here's this, you got group A, you got group B, group C, like, which of these do you like? Like, we stepped through the whole process. And at the end, she was like, this didn't turn out like I thought it was going to. And I was like, okay, like, what, like, let's talk about, do we need to do something different? She's like, no, I like it. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And I was like, okay, well, if you like it, then awesome. But I was like, and I guess that's just people who are not creative, artistic. She's a pharmacist, so she's very
like, she couldn't have visualized what
yeah.
might be like.
And I had even, through the process, I had been sending her pictures, right? Like, it's not like if I'm doing a commission, I want people to be happy. I don't want them to be surprised at the end going, what is this? Where did this come from? So, like, she had been apprised, but she just, at the very end, she was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But I mean, they're still hanging in her dining room, so I guess she likes them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it was an interesting process with her.
Man, I haven't really, I guess being someone who, like, in my work, I do stuff so, I guess representational, and not thinking about what it would be like to do abstracts and have a commission and someone. So you're talking about, like, to me, it feels a lot like graphic design. Like, you would have color palettes, maybe textures, images, and
that's probably where that comes from for me, is trying to include people in the process. Because, again, like, I want them to be happy. So if they're going to pay me some amount of money, even if it's not much, because sometimes I don't charge that much depending on what it is. I don't want them to be like, oh, Misty, she really did something weird. I'm going back to her. So, yeah.
So what is your process exactly? I mean, I've always kind of thought of your process as being, this is just what I'm getting off of, like, looking at your work on the internet, which is probably not much information. But I'm like, this looks so free flowing and spontaneous. And
no, you're pretty right. That's
right. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times, this is in a little journal that I have. I basically started with this brown right here. And I was like, oh, I like that brown. I'll put some green on there too. Like, let's put this bluish kind of teal, greeny color on here. Yeah. So I did that. And then I was like, oh, well, I need some more brown. So I put this brown over here. And while it was watercolor, while it was all still wet, I was like, I'll add some of this. This is India ink. This black is, and I was like, I'll add that while it's still wet. So it'll run, give it a little run up there. So I did that. And then I was like, well, yeah, okay. So I'm going to add some pencil. So then I, put this pencil in here, and I have this, I'm obsessed with this. If this isn't a video podcast, people are in trouble. I went to
there'll be a video version.
Oh, good thing. I went to the LA County Museum of Art last year. I went to a wedding in California, and this was in the gift shop, and it's like a variegated pencil, and it makes the coolest colors. I'm kind of obsessed with it. So that's what this red is right here. So I added that. So yeah, it's just a matter of, I start with one thing and then just sort of go from there. I love that. Sometimes that's successful and sometimes it's not. I mean,
sure.
I mean, that's anything on art, right?
Yeah, you're going with the flow. You're taking it one step at a time and making decisions along the way as you're doing things.
Yeah, just responding to what's there. And
you've got, like, what are your favorite mediums to use? Your things that you're using in your work most commonly?
Paper. There's always paper. I have so much paper. The bins of paper at my place. It's a problem.
Yeah.
I have like 5 of these.
Nice.
So there's always paper. So there's always some collage element. And it can be paper. To me, I'm kind of a magpie when it comes to paper. It can be stuff that I've made, like sketched out, drawn, or painted, or whatever. This piece right here is in this bin. This is my husband went to um, uh, I don't know what it was, but there was a math problem in the bar, and so he was working out the math. I live in Huntsville. It's a NASA town. Like,
Yeah.
working out math in a bar is normal here. That doesn't sound normal in most places, but that's a normal thing here. And so there's like all this math on this piece of paper where he worked out this problem.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about it, after he got home, and I was like, don't throw that away. I need that. And so every once in a while, if I decide I want something that is, numbery, then I'll pull off a piece of this and stick it on there. So, it's all kinds of things. And I buy good, artist papers from, Blick and those places, but it can also be trash off the street if that strikes my fancy.
Yeah, really. I mean, because what you're looking at, I imagine, is, colors and shapes and textures and lines and all the different elements that you're wanting to pull together. And that could be on anything.
It could be on anything. And it's really funny. I have these bins and I've been doing this for 10 years. And so the collection, you don't develop this sort of paper stash in a couple of days. This takes years.
Yeah.
There was something that I was looking at the other day, and it was a piece of paper it was actually from a giant piece that I had done in my very first year of 20 minutes a day, where I had painted something. And, it was like, on a big, not poster board size, but close to that size. And I had started cutting it down to use it for other things. So there's this little bitty piece on a page in one of my recent journals that is from that first year. But, it was one of those things that I came across in the bin, and I was like, ooh, this works great. I'll put it here. Right. So there's just this timing of the right piece of paper showing up at the right time.
Yeah.
But so there's always paper. I've been doing a lot of watercolor here lately. I get in a mood and I'll do watercolor. I do acrylics. I have, an incredible pen stash. Like it just depends. I have a lot of stuff. And I've learned over the years what I like and what I don't. People love those. And this is no shade on this material. I just can't make it work. Those alcohol inks, people love those, and they make beautiful stuff with them. I am wretched at it. Like, I can't. I'm like, what is this? Why won't it do what I want it to do? So I used that some the first year, and I couldn't ever make it work. And you can't paint over the top of it. And so much of my work is layers. That I was like, this is out. Like, it just bleeds through whatever, even gesso, it'll bleed through gesso. And I'm like, gesso is the fix, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to fix it, you put some gesso on top of it, you're good to go. Nope, bleeds right through. So when I first started that, and again, that was that first year, there was a lot of trial and error of what materials really work for me. And I think a lot of people get started collecting materials, and that's like its own hobby, right? Yeah. Like the collecting of stuff. And I did that at the beginning. I was definitely in that boat because I was trying a lot of things, but now, like, even though I have a lot of stuff, I know the materials that I work with well. And so I don't tend to buy new stuff, right? Like, I don't really buy whatever the hot new thing is, because I know what works for me.
Yeah. And I imagine over time, you would start to have less situations where you felt like it didn't work, because you're familiarizing yourself so much with how each element works together, or like you figure out, okay, gesso does not work with this, Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, never again.
And again, when you're layering, like, you learn what products will go on top of things.
Yeah.
I'm like an ad. Crink markers. These crink markers. Now these markers are pricey, but they will draw on anything, because they were developed by graffiti artists. This was developed by a graffiti artist. So, folks that are used to really erratic conditions, right? When you're talking about graffitiing places, this will literally write on anything.
Wow. I might have to check
So
that out.
yeah, they're fabulous, and they come in every color, and of course I have a black one because I really like black. But yeah, that's one of my favorite products is
Oh, that's awesome.
because again, you learn what will layer on top of each other, and they don't run. So once you make the mark, it's there. And
Nice.
sometimes you want it to run, like not India ink. Sumi ink is great for that.
Yeah.
Sumi ink will run everywhere when you put water on it, and if you want that, like that's the product you need.
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm always trying to I think when I'm looking for something like that with inks, I'm trying to find something that's not going to run usually.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because of the direction that I'm wanting it to go in, and I'm wanting to like put in detail. I don't want it to run.
Right.
So when you find different types of pens or inks that don't,
right.
You're like,
then you want a micron, right? Then you want a micron because it's not going to go anywhere.
Yes, I have millions of those things. I think everybody should just buy millions of those.
Yeah, you need a micron in every size point because you never know what size line you need. You might need a little skinny one. You might need a fat one.
And see,
you need a really fat one. You get a crank though. It's
yeah,
giant.
So have you tried that on have you done it on like canvas or wood or any of those things? Yeah.
I mean, it will write on anything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I really love about your work too, is in like the sketchbook that you were just showing, pencil lines and kind of scribbles and randomness. And, then you've got your darker ink lines, and that combination is just so awesome to me. I love that. I don't know what it is, but it's just visually so pleasing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's
paint,
That's something that's very visually pleasing to me, and it's something that I've been working on, like really the whole the other part of this is that right before I started I guess it was after this, I had carpal tunnel for a long time in both hands, really bad. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of years, I didn't hold anything in a pencil grip because I couldn't feel my hands. Oh. So after I got my hands fixed, it's been part of my art process is to be able to grip. And, this may occur to you. What did I do before? I literally finger painted. I didn't draw anything. I just used my fingers to paint because I couldn't hold a paintbrush. Yeah, it's wacky. But in the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've really had to redevelop the grip. And so I've been working online. It's my favorite thing. I love that deconstructed, something that looks kind of the graffiti-y, kind of like, the flyers that get stuck on the wall and then they get all shredded and pulled off. Like that is deeply fulfilling for me. I don't know why. Like that is just like the best. So anything that looks really grunge. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. So anything that looks really grungy, like just deconstructed and kind of pulled apart. Scratched, like when you've got paint and you've got it flaking off. I love that, man. It's
I did too.
Like it's just so good.
See, one of the things though, what I find with myself is that it doesn't even matter that I don't make art that way. I can appreciate it, and I love the visual part of it. And I know I can go up to a painting and say, okay, oh, they scraped that off and they painted that on, and that's some pencil there, peeking through here or there or whatever. And I don't know, I just appreciate the kind of the spontaneousness, but all the different elements kind of working together.
I think you're getting at a style question there. And I find that really, really fascinating because there are a lot of styles that I really love. And, when you're developing as an artist, I think a lot of breakdown happens for people when they look at something and they go, oh, I can't do that. So that means I'm not any good. Oh, right. like this thing that's so beautiful, I can't make that. So, I'm never going to be a photorealistic execution. Like I'm never going to do that. I think it's fascinating and wonderful when I see it. But I'm not any less of an artist because I don't reproduce, a photorealistic piece of art.
Oh, absolutely.
And one of the things I try to talk about on my blog in particular a lot is developing what you love, and what you are good at. And, sometimes what you love and what you're good at are close enough you can get there, right? Like, and you can develop that. And sometimes you have to figure out what you love and what you can do, maybe two things that don't match. And so you just have to love what you love, but then develop what you do to something to a degree that you love that as well.
Yeah.
So, I look at your work, I can never draw like you draw. Like there's no way. It's beautiful, but it's not a skill that I have. And so, that's one of the reasons I really love Caucus, is because we are all so different. Like we all have such different styles and, the way, what we make and how we make it. And yet everybody is really encouraging, right? Like everybody has their, it's just like having a built-in cheerleading section of this looks awesome, yay for you, right? Like there's something really lovely about that.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I didn't realize I was going into style, but yeah, that's something that I think that I myself have questioned, because I do that. I love things so much and what somebody else is doing. Then I don't know if you do this, but I do this all the time. Then I question, like, should I be doing that?
Yeah, well,
it so much. I'm like, oh, look at that. It's
yeah, like I love hand lettering, and with what I've been through with my hands, I'm probably never going to be a hand letterer. But is my handwriting really unique to me? Yes. Should I lean into that? Absolutely. Right? Like, is it ever going to be those beautiful flowy brush strokes that was like last year before was kind of the rage, right? Like everybody was into that. No, my handwriting is never going to look like that. It's just not. But if I know somebody and I need that, I might call them up and say, hey, can you hand letter this for me?
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's work out a trade or a deal or whatever. And, call on each other's strengths, because I'm not ever going to be a brush hand letterer.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, when someone does glass blowing or pottery or something like that, I'm like, oh no, I would hurt myself. I would hurt something around me. I don't know.
Not a good scene. Not where I need to be.
I get like paint on me in weird places, and I know that fire and burning things is not good.
No,
if I can't handle paint, come on. But yeah, that's such a good point too. I think you brought up the Caucus, is that in networking with other artists and knowing what other people are capable of doing and what they might have like in their studio, as far as like supplies or things that they have those materials, and for whatever reason you need help with something, you can kind of call on each other and be like, hey, you got some extra like paper that I could kind of look through or something. And that's one of I think the wonderful things about, like, instead of when you're an artist kind of shutting yourself off in your studio and being on your own, to communicating and being part of community and knowing people, and just being able to reach out and support each other. Because I think a lot of artists too, they kind of get a little competitive. Like, how do you feel about, like, I mean, I feel like you really share a lot. Like you're open with.
Yeah. I there's a seat at the table for all of us, because we are all so different. You and I are never going to be competing for the same client.
Sure.
I mean, if we are, they're probably going to buy both of our stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, because their interests are so
different.
varied.
Yeah.
Right. They're gonna. So, like, I am not in competition with you. I'm not in competition with any artist because there's so much available to look at, and to enjoy. Like, yes, get what you love, go enjoy that. Like, I want people to feel, first of all, I want people to feel empowered to make their own art.
Sure.
Like, absolutely, I believe everyone is creative, and I think everybody should try. Are you going to be a working artist? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. If you just like to draw on, post-it notes, like, do that. Enjoy yourself. So I believe everybody's creative. And then I believe there's no competition between artists because there's enough of all for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I pretty freely share. I have a blog, I share on my Instagram, and if people want to buy, great. And if they just want to come and get free tips, that's great too.
Yeah. What are your what is your website and your social media stuff that people can find you?
Well, if you can spell my last name, you can probably find me. It's Granade. So my website is misty.granades.com. And then I'm misty.granade on Instagram. So yeah, it's pretty easy. If you can spell my last name, you can find me.
And do you have a shop on your website?
Yeah, I have an Etsy shop where I post. I kind of post randomly. Like, I'll get busy making something. Like, this next week, I'm probably going to be making journals. So if I make a bunch and end up with some extras, I'll throw them in my shop. But there's a few pieces from several of my previous shows that are in the shop. I have stickers. I just got new stickers. I have stickers that are my little shrimp stickers that are going to go in the shop. So, and there's a range of prices. So, like, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, I have stickers for $3. So yeah.
And so, I can't remember if we were talking about this before we got started. But you're not really doing any booths or shows, but do you have some other shows that are coming up or that you're involved in?
I actually don't have any shows scheduled right now. I have a piece, the Caucus, the Alabama Women's Caucus for Art and the North Carolina Women's Caucus for Art collaborated. And so there was a show here in Huntsville that just got taken down. It's going, I think, to Wilmington, North Carolina. So I have a piece in that show. And then, the great thing about Caucus is that we create opportunities for our members. And so whenever there's a show going on there, I've had several shows at Low Mill. I don't have anything on the books right now. I've been working a little smaller here lately, just because that's kind of been the state I've been in. But probably if you want to buy something, the best place is my Etsy shop or to contact me and we can talk through. I have some bigger pieces that are available that aren't in my Etsy shop because they're giant. And,
I totally get that. I'm like, okay, how am I gonna? I don't know.
Yeah, I have three. It's not really a triptych, but they go together. Yeah. 3 pieces that are they're 6 feet tall, and about 5 feet wide. And they live behind the door in my bedroom. They were in a show and we took them down. I was like, what are we going to do with these? And I was like, well, there's really no place for them to live. Okay, they live here now.
No.
So, like you need a giant piece of art. I gotcha.
Really. Oh my goodness. That's like public art. Like, you need to find you a place where you can be like, hey, you guys want some public art that can hang up. And
it's one of those things too, that the way they're mounted is they're on foam core, and then they have a frame built out of foam core because we couldn't figure out how to make glass, to put them behind glass because they're so big. So if anybody ever bought them, like, the framing to go with that would be a whole process. And yeah, it's kind of intense. And then also, like, everybody's house now is open concept, so nobody has walls for something that big. Like, people want, people want 5x7s, and if you're really lucky, you can get them to get a 10x20 or something, but most people they don't have any wall space because everybody's house is, like, open.
So that's what you're finding, like, when you're talking to people, they're like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
want the smaller stuff."
Yeah. They're like, "I don't have a place to hang that."
When they do that though, do they get multiples or anything like that? Because I feel like when you're buying small, like you're wanting to make like a grouping.
Yeah.
Of things.
Sometimes they'll buy. And I have one I have one person, she buys my art regularly, and I actually almost feel sort of sorry for her coworkers because her office at work, she sent me pictures. She's actually turned into a friend of mine through this process. And she sent me pictures of all of my art in her office. And she's like, "Yeah, I have this gallery of your work." And I'm like, "Do your coworkers like enjoy that? Like, how does that work out?" She's like, "Oh, I name drop you all the time." And I'm like, "Well, thanks for that, first of all." But yeah, it's really it's quite entertaining. She's really cute about
fun.
having
So
all
a
my
genuine collector.
Yeah. She's, besides my mom,
Yeah.
probably my number one collector.
My mom has one of those walls, but
Right. Yeah, if you go to my mom's house, she like has stuff I made in the 5th grade framed with stuff that I made in the last couple of years. She's like, "This." And I'm like, "Mom, I was 10 when I made that," but she loves it, right? So she's not gonna take it down. But yeah, my mom is probably my number one collector. And then, and my kids are just like, "Oh." My youngest is an artist in their own right, and they draw on the iPad, and so they have this huge digital collection. And I'm like, "Can we print that out? Let's print that out and put it in." And they're like, "No." And I was like, "I can't be my mom because my kids' stuff is all on the iPad."
Oh no! You need to like kidnap their iPad and be like, "Print, print, 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 print."
Yeah, they're always like, "It's not good enough to print," and I was like,
Oh, no.
I'm not sure that's true, but okay.
Yeah. Oh man, that's like a whole nother subject. That's like a whole nother thing. And you were kind of getting into that subject too about like everyone's creative. And we kind of limit ourselves and think, okay, well, this is what good creativity is.
Mhm.
And there's really no such thing. It's
I think for most people think that if you say I'm an artist, most people will go, "Oh, well, you draw things." Right? You're a drawer. And I'm like, "Well, that is one way, right? That is a way." And I also know that because I'm an abstract person, people love representational things. They like things that they can recognize. Abstract art, for many people, not everyone, but for many people, is like, "It's too hard. I don't know what you're doing. I don't understand it." And so I actually have a post on when the light bulb went off over my head and I finally figured this out, I was like, "I've got to write this down." So I wrote a blog post about understanding abstract art the way I see it now, and the way people when people talk to me and I say I'm an artist and they say, "What do you do?" And I say, "Well, I do abstract mixed media." Well, then you have to break down what is mixed media, right? Okay, well, I don't just watercolor or just do collage. I do a combination of all these things.
Yeah.
And then what is abstract? Well, abstract can be lots of things, but you're looking at the realm of color and shape and feeling. Like oftentimes, if it's an abstract work, I just want you to feel something. And that feeling can be lots of things. Like you might look at it and go, "Oh, that's really pretty. I feel good." But then again, you might not know. You look at it and you go, "Oh, that makes me feel really uncomfortable. Why is that?" And that's because it's not balanced, because it's really dark and heavy, right? Like there's lots of ways that you can. So trying to get people to understand that much of abstract art is about a feeling, and is about the process for me, right? So while I'm doing it, my process is the part that's important to me. And then when it gets to you and it makes you feel something and you respond to it, maybe you want to buy that. Maybe you go, well, not even on a good day am I spending money on that, right? Like, and that's okay because I still made you feel something,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's like, that is not for me, but I felt it. That's
I
okay.
feel that way about bacon. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who does kind of the morbid paintings. It's like bloody and grotesque.
Yeah.
His name's Bacon.
Oh, I don't know him particularly, but I know the style you're talking about. Well, maybe I know who he is because I've seen his work. Yeah, where you're just like,
he's a famous guy.
Yeah.
And like I learned about him in high school and college and everything, but I get feelings.
Yeah, you get feelings.
I don't want it.
Yeah. And I think it was Mark Rothko who does the big color field paintings.
Yeah.
He talked about, his goal was to evoke emotion, and that if his work evoked even a bit of the emotion that he had while he was painting it in you, then his job was done.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. I think that's one of the things that abstract art is really good at, is evoking. And sometimes that's a really lovely light, right? You can feel really uplifted by that. And sometimes, like a Mark Rothko, you feel like you're drowning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of human nature to label and stereotype and group things in all kinds of ways, right?
Mm-hmm,
and so one of the beautiful things about abstract art is that it can't necessarily be labeled. They can't say, oh, that's a flower,
right.
or that's a house or whatever it is, that they think art is. They can't label it. And so just in that, some people get kind of, overwhelmed with thinking, okay, well, I don't understand that. But really, it's not about giving it a label at all. It's just about experiencing it.
Yes.
And, just taking it in and saying, okay, what does this feel like to me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it kind of breaks those barriers that, humans have, even, with each other, and like we're labeling each other. You're right wing, I'm left wing, you're, whatever. You're white, I'm black, and we're different and we're labeling it. But abstract is like, this isn't about labels at all. And it breaks down that problem that we all have as human beings.
Yeah. And I wish people, and I think what happens a lot is that people are worried that they're going to interpret it incorrectly.
Oh yeah. And
right. Like there's a right way.
No.
What's that?
I don't think there's a right way.
Right. There isn't a right way. There's not a correct answer. Yeah. And people think that there is. And so they get worried that if they say anything, then it will be wrong. And like, I've had people come up to me and say, oh, I see this in your work. And I'm like, really? That's amazing. I see that now too. And, I didn't have any intent for that. Yeah. But they found it in the work. And so now I'm like, well, now I can't unsee that. That's really cool, right? This person pointed this out and this is what so, it's just about sort of, again, experiencing and starting a conversation. And I think for lots of folks, that's difficult.
Yeah. And we all have our own. Yeah, we all have our own unique experiences anyway. Not one of us is living the exact same experience in the exact same life.
Right.
And that's exactly how abstract is too. You're not making the same picture over and over again. They're all completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like these are little like creations of, variety and just, I don't know. I love it. I absolutely love what you're doing.
Thanks.
I'm like, there's so much meaning here. So like,
and sometimes it's just like, well, that
know.
song was peppy, so I scribbled harder. Like sometimes that's really all there is. And it was it was Tuesday morning. I was listening to REM. I scribbled really hard. It was fun. Like,
Awesome.
end of story.
Well, thank you so much, Misty, for talking to me today. And everybody needs to go and check out Misty's art on her website and her Instagram. So thank you. Oh man, we had great conversation.
We did. We really did. Thank you so much.
Explained abstract. Woo!
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Art Talk with April. For more information on this episode, join the Facebook group, The Art Lounge. Please subscribe and share. See you next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week.